If you've ever wanted to run a tavern in a fantasy world, then it's probably worth checking out Traveler's Rest, a game in early access that is legitimately good and showing a lot of potential, but in its current state is mired by a few significant flaws. Right at the top, I want to address this game is heavily inspired to the point of ripping off Graveyard Keeper, an amazing RPG simulator I certainly suggest playing. Traveler's Rest takes a lot of things, the aesthetic, the interface, even many of the mechanics. In a lot of ways, Traveler's Rest is basically asking what if instead of being the Graveyard Keeper in this world, we were the Innkeeper. And to me, this is whatever. They're different games with different focuses and different gameplay experiences. Ultimately, if you like Graveyard Keeper, then you'll probably like this game too. When booting up the game, you dive into the fantasy world by getting to create your own character, and you can basically create the look of which class you want to be, which I really like. I made a wizard looking dude and was good to go. Next, we get to the game, and there are two major components to the game. The first is the restaurant management simulator, and the second is the RPG simulator. These two work together and affect each other, but more or less are two different gameplay experiences. The main mechanic of the game, and what you'll spend around half your time actually doing, is the tavern owner simulator aspect. If you like restaurant simulators or games like Overcooked, then this is the vibe, and it's really fun. You have different foods and drinks that you serve. You need to keep the place clean, kick out any rabble-rousers, and ensure the place is the right temperature. Unironically, this temperature thing is the most critically important of them all. The focus of this is less taking the orders and making sure the tavern goers get the right food or drink. The focus is more about ensuring you are effectively pouring drinks, serving customers, cleaning the place, and generally managing the tavern, keeping everyone happy. The happier the customer is when they leave, the more reputation you gain, which is essentially your tavern's experience and how your tavern levels up. Leveling up your tavern is what unlocks more parts of the game and more mechanics. I also like that if you do a bad job, then you lose reputation and in turn experience, meaning you don't want to overextend your tavern for extra cash, which is a nice balancing act. Currently, there isn't a ton of depth here, which I'm sure will change as the game keeps getting developed. Even still, I really enjoyed this and found the gameplay compelling and satisfying. Super randomly as well, food is way cheaper than drinks and it's dumb, but I kind of like it. Anyway, I'll talk more about the tavern simulator part later. Let's discuss the RPG part. The outside of your tavern is where you will play the RPG simulator. This follows a pretty standard trajectory. You acquire raw resources by cutting down trees and mining iron. There are woodcutters and smelters which turn the raw resources into different versions of the same idea, like we go from having iron ore to an iron bar. Ooh. Then we can turn these resources into different things, like some nails. Then we get to turn those nails into some sick item for the tavern, like a wooden cup. Cool. All of this is fairly admin heavy, micromanagey, and honestly, tedious. Made all the more worse by the fact you can only put on one stack at a time for every item. I kind of get why all of this works the way it does, because realism coming at you in this fantasy world tavern simulator, but it gets boring really quickly, and I hope they cut down the time you have to spend doing this stuff. Also, everything requires fuel. Like, I get why smelters need coal, but why do we need fuel to make nails on an anvil? What the fuck is going on here? All of this stuff, along with the farming, by the way, there's farming in this game because obviously, and it works exactly how you think it does. All of this stuff exists to let you customize your tavern and more or less just make you in charge of the whole tavern running process. The items you make, such as tables and chairs, can be put into the tavern. The more tables you have, the more people you can serve. You can also make decorative items which will increase the comfort of the tavern and get you more reputation from customers. Compared to Graveyard Keeper and honestly most RPG simulators, the Tavern Customization is really good. There's a really solid amount of items you can get to decorate your tavern, and they are really well designed. The game also makes two choices I love. The first is that most items have multiple styles. Say you have a rug, you can pick from the various rug options to get the one you like best, and it's super easy to change. Same with moving anything in general. You go into build mode, pick it up, place it down, and you keep going. Super easy and user-friendly. The second choice I love is for decorations. You are able to freely place them where you like. They don't snap to certain spots or work on a grid, although some items like tables and chairs do, which is for the best. This free movement for decoration means you can place rugs, flowers, candles wherever you want, which allows for better tavern customization, really making you feel like it's your tavern. Together, this leads to easy and fun tavern designing, which is awesome, big thumbs up. And overall, I would say everything that happens inside the tavern is really good. Where the customization stumbles is with food and drink. You are able to make a ton of different dishes and make an enormous array of beverages. The problem is, there's not really any need for the game to have this much variance, as gameplay wise, there's so little difference between them. I mainly just found the amount of choices overwhelming, redundant, and even inhibiting. As you progress through the game, you unlock more beverage options and more food options. If we're looking at the beverage tech tree, there's 4 different tech lines, and the difference between each of them is negligible. They all just unlock different drink options, which mechanically function basically the same. On top of this, each option unlocks 3 or 4 drinks. Once again, there just doesn't need to be this many drinks. I get you want to make sure you can make pale ale, lagers, pilsners, mead, and whatever bock is, but we actually don't need this many options. It's fine. I think it would be much better if you either had the same tech line, but each option unlocks 1 drink, or if you had 1 line, but each option unlocks multiple drinks. Having both is messy and cumbersome. This is the exact same problem with the farming tech tree. A bunch of different options, tons of items, but it's just too much. We don't need this many crops in the game, especially as they don't really do anything different from each other. It's choice for choice sake. All that matters gameplay wise when you are making food and drinks is that you put more valuable crops in the more valuable meals and drinks. The later it's unlocked in the tech tree, the more valuable it is. Do this and you make more money from selling them. That's it. The crafting tech tree has the right level of escalation and works really well, but the food and beverage tech trees are off chops, just needlessly dense and complex. Finally, let's dissect the huge issue this game has. Your tavern levels so slowly, like way too slowly. Traveler's Rest has clearly been created with the mindset that in-game players will spend not just weeks, but months and even years in it. But this is a bold assumption. The game is still in early development, but even if it does add a whole lot more stuff, which is fun and enjoyable, the leveling progression system is going to kill the game for so many players. Without going into too much detail, I decked out my tavern with a bunch of the best items in the game. I had lots of seats to cater as many patrons as possible. I then spent 20 minutes near perfectly doing the tavern management simulator, all for maybe a quarter of the experience needed to get to level 5. You need 15,000 reputation to level from 4 to 5, and each patron gives around 60 to 100 once your tavern is really nicely decorated. So you need like 200 people in your tavern, and that takes a long time. And as you can assume, each time you level up, it just takes longer and longer and longer to get to the next level. This is made worse by the fact that you can lose reputation, something that is fairly easy to do for a bunch of reasons. Like if you don't turn on the fireplace the second it becomes 6 p.m, everyone in the tavern at the time will lose you reputation when they leave. Accidentally getting there like 20 real seconds late will mean for the next 5 minutes or so, you are straight up losing progress. And the game barely indicates you need to turn on the fireplace, so it's super easy to miss with everything you are dealing with. This last complaint about the fireplace is a fairly easy fix, and in general, you could super easily lower the reputation requirements to level up. So this issue hopefully isn't in the game long term. As it stands though, this game becomes an absolute grind. I played 9 hours of this game, 17 in-game days, and for a first-time player, I'd say I was doing a really good job with the whole tavern simulator thing, and yet, I was only level 4. The prospect of just toiling away at the same experience of running around the tavern and putting the same routine recipes onto cook to ensure I had enough iron was just too much. I wanted to at least unlock staff for this review, which you get at level 6, to see what the whole automation aspect of the game was like, but I legitimately didn't think it was worth spending another 3 or so hours trying to get there, so I didn't. There are some mechanics I haven't talked about, such as the room renting system, orders, your character's own personal leveling system, the fact you own a cat, some of which I had unlocked, and some of which I was still hours and hours away from. The game seems like it will and has promised to add more, so there should be more depth to fill the tedium in the full version. Even with more stuff though, the game needs to strip the fat. Many of the systems should be simplified and streamlined. On top of this, the game seems to be aiming for players to play it for 50 plus hours, and that seems overly ambitious, to the point where most people's experience with the game is going to be highly detrimented by this thinking and cut short because of boredom. All in all, I think the game would be much better served if it tried to make an excellent experience that lasts around 10 to 20 hours, which for a cheapish indie game is still amazing value. Even so, it's a good game, and if you think it looks fun, then I'd suggest it, and I'm keen to play it when 1.0 hits the market. And that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like the video if it was your vibe, subscribe to the channel for more silky content, and check out some of my other analysis. I'm sure there's something you'll like. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!